The story of Azkaban is shrouded in mystery, much like the dark, foreboding island it occupies. For centuries, it has stood as the wizarding world's most infamous prison, a place of despair and hopelessness. But, like all ancient places, Azkaban's walls hold secrets far older than its current function, a history that predates its reputation as a fortress of incarceration. What was Azkaban before it became synonymous with misery? To answer that question, we must venture beyond the surface and explore a story steeped in forgotten lore, dark magic, and the haunting echoes of its past. Azkaban's origins are not well documented, which is telling in itself. Unlike the meticulously recorded histories of Hogwarts or the Ministry of Magic, Azkaban's backstory exists only in whispers and fragmented tales. According to wizarding legend, the island was discovered by a dark wizard known as Ecrizdis. This sorcerer was not merely dabbling in dark arts, he was a master of them, his knowledge surpassing even the most fearsome practitioners of his time. Ecrizdis used the island as a base to conduct unspeakable experiments and rituals. Shielded by powerful concealment charms, his lair remained hidden from both muggles and wizards alike for decades. But why this particular island? Was it random, or did something about Azkaban call to Ecrizdis? Some magical historians suggest the island itself holds a unique magical resonance, one tied to its geography. Situated in the cold, unforgiving North Sea, Azkaban is battered by relentless winds and cloaked in mist for much of the year. The isolation alone would deter most, but Ecrizdis likely saw potential in its remoteness. More intriguingly, some believe the island might have been a convergence point for dark magical ley lines, a place where malevolent energy naturally accumulated, amplifying the potency of Ecrizdis' spells. As time went on, the island grew to reflect the horrors wrought upon it. Ecrizdis' experiments, which allegedly included summoning and enslaving dark magical entities, left their mark. The presence of Dementors on Azkaban, a unique phenomenon, suggests that these creatures might not have originated there, but were drawn to the lingering echoes of Ecrizdis' work. Dementors feed on despair, and the residue of the Dark Wizard's reign may have made the island an ideal feeding ground. Some daring theorists even propose that Ecrizdis himself created the first Dementors, though this remains speculative. After Ecrizdis' mysterious death, his concealment charms faded, and the island was discovered by wizards. What they found was horrifying. The remnants of dark magic were so potent that many who ventured to the island were driven mad. For years, Azkaban was avoided altogether, a cursed place where no wizard dared to tread. It was a monument to fear, left abandoned as nature reclaimed its twisted halls. Even in its desolation, the island whispered warnings to those who came too close. This context sets the stage for Azkaban's transformation into a prison centuries later. Yet one question looms: did the magical residue of Ecrizdis' reign make Azkaban a suitable prison, or did it curse the prisoners who were sent there? The interplay between choice and consequence is a recurring theme in wizarding history, and Azkaban stands as a testament to that dichotomy. The decision to repurpose Azkaban as a wizard prison did not occur until much later, and it remains a contentious chapter in magical governance. At the heart of this decision was the Ministry of Magic, which at the time was grappling with a rapidly growing population of magical lawbreakers. Prior to the establishment of Azkaban as a prison, convicted witches and wizards were either sent to smaller detention facilities or executed for particularly heinous crimes. The existing system was neither efficient nor humane, and the ministry needed a centralized solution. But why Azkaban? Out of all the possible locations in the wizarding world, why choose an island with such a notorious past? The answer lies in practicality, or perhaps short-sightedness. By the time the ministry began considering Azkaban, its reputation as a cursed, uninhabitable place had solidified. The magical remnants of Ecrizdis' work, coupled with the growing presence of Dementors, created an environment that was not only inhospitable, but actively hostile to human life. To the ministry, this was a feature, not a flaw. Containing criminals in a place that already repelled visitors, ensured minimal escape attempts, and reduced the need for external security measures. In the early stages of this transformation, the ministry faced considerable pushback from some members of the wizarding community. Ethical concerns were raised about the implications of utilizing such a dark and haunted location to house prisoners. Wizards like Elpheus Doge argued that the residual dark magic on Azkaban could have adverse effects on the prisoners' mental states, potentially driving them to madness. Yet these objections were largely ignored. To the ministry, the ends justified the means. Azkaban's remote location and natural defenses outweighed its grim legacy. The ministry's decision to allow Dementors to act as jailers marked a turning point in Azkaban's history. Dementors, drawn to the island's despair-laden atmosphere, required no payment or sustenance beyond the emotions they consumed. It was a mutually convenient arrangement, albeit a morally dubious one. Some wizards questioned whether allowing creatures as malevolent as Dementors such unregulated access to human prisoners constituted an additional punishment, one that exceeded the bounds of justice. From an operational standpoint, the ministry framed the use of Azkaban as a pragmatic solution. The natural wards of the island, combined with the constant presence of Dementors, made it virtually escape-proof. What they failed to anticipate, or chose to ignore, was the psychological toll it would take on those incarcerated there. Stories of prisoners losing their minds, reliving their worst memories, and succumbing to despair soon became commonplace. Azkaban was no longer just a place of confinement, it was a place of torment. The line between justice and cruelty blurred, raising profound questions about the ethics of punishment in the wizarding world. Moreover, Azkaban's transformation into a prison was not a clean slate. The island's dark past seemed to seep into its very foundation, affecting not just the prisoners, but also the guards, and even the structure itself. Aurors who served rotations on Azkaban often spoke of an oppressive weight in the air, as if the island itself were alive and resentful. Unexplained phenomena such as cold spots, disembodied whispers, and even visions of the past became part of the prison's lore. While some dismissed these as psychological side effects of the Dementor's presence, others believed them to be echoes of the atrocities committed by Ekristis. The decision to establish Azkaban as the primary wizard prison may have been driven by necessity, but its execution revealed the ministry's deeper failings. The reliance on a place steeped in such malevolence highlighted their willingness to compromise morality for convenience. This decision would have lasting repercussions, not just for the prisoners, but for the wizarding world as a whole. The haunting nature of Azkaban and its dark origins raise an unsettling question. Could the island's malevolent history influence the behavior and fate of those imprisoned there? This theory gains traction when one examines the psychological and emotional decay experienced by many of Azkaban's inmates. Unlike ordinary prisons, Azkaban subjected its occupants to an environment designed not just to detain, but to break them. The Dementors, which fed on joy and hope, compounded the bleakness of the location, yet the effect went beyond what could be attributed to the creatures alone. Magical historians have suggested that the lingering magical residue left by Ekristis could play a role in amplifying the despair and madness within Azkaban. The dark rituals he performed may have fundamentally altered the island, imbuing it with a curse-like effect that disrupts the mental stability of anyone who lingers too long. This might explain why even the most hardened criminals often emerged as broken shells of their former selves. Wizards like Sirius Black, who resisted the Dementor's influence, were rare exceptions, and even he admitted to feeling the island's oppressive weight gnawing at his resolve. The psychological toll on inmates, however, was not the only sign that Azkaban retained its dark legacy. The prison guards, mostly Aurors before the Dementors took full control, also experienced strange phenomena. Reports of spectral apparitions, ghostly wails, and flashes of ancient runes carved into the walls were dismissed by ministry officials as fabrications or overactive imaginations. Yet the consistency of these accounts suggests otherwise. Could these manifestations be remnants of Ekristis' enchantments, attempting to reclaim the island from its new purpose? Interestingly, Azkaban's dark history did not deter the Ministry of Magic from leveraging the island for political purposes. Over time, it became a tool not only to imprison those who broke wizarding law, but also to silence dissent. During times of political unrest, particularly under regimes like that of Cornelius Fudge and later Pius Thickness, Azkaban was used to detain individuals whose only crime was opposing the ministry. This misuse of Azkaban underscored the dangerous intersection of power and fear, as the ministry exploited the island's terrifying reputation to maintain control. The presence of Dementors on Azkaban also opened the door to further questions about their origins and role in the wizarding world. While Dementors are often regarded as natural entities, their unique connection to Azkaban has fueled speculation about whether they were truly native to the island. Some theorists argue that Acrista's experiments might have accidentally or intentionally created the first Dementors. If true, this would mean that Azkaban's reputation as a place of despair is not just coincidental, but deeply intertwined with its earliest days as a site of dark magic. These darker truths about Azkaban's history add layers of complexity to its role in the wizarding world. It was never a neutral space. It was a place born of malevolence, shaped by suffering, and sustained by fear. By choosing such a cursed location for a prison, the Ministry of Magic perpetuated the cycle of despair that began with Acristis. Instead of creating a system focused on rehabilitation or justice, they leaned into punishment, feeding the island's insidious nature and ensuring its continued infamy. But Azkaban's story does not end with the prisoners it held. The island itself seems to possess a kind of memory, as if the walls remember every curse cast, every scream uttered, and every soul consumed. This raises an unsettling idea. Is Azkaban merely a prison, or has it become something far worse? An entity in its own right, feeding on the despair of those who cross its shores. The notion that Azkaban might possess an identity of its own, a consciousness born of centuries of despair, casts a chilling shadow over its legacy. While such a theory remains speculative, it fits neatly within the broader tapestry of magical lore, where places of great power often seem to acquire a life of their own. Hogwarts, for instance, is famously imbued with protective enchantments that seem to reflect the will of its founders. Could Azkaban, in its own twisted way, be similarly alive, an extension of the dark magic that birthed it? This idea becomes even more compelling when considering the Dementors. These creatures, often described as parasites, feed on human emotions, yet they appear to thrive specifically in Azkaban's environment. It is as if the island itself amplifies their presence, creating a symbiotic relationship between the place and its spectral inhabitants. If Acristis indeed played a role in their creation, it is possible that the very essence of Azkaban is intertwined with their existence, making the island both their home and their source of power. But if Azkaban is more than just a prison, if it is a place of sentient darkness, what implications does this hold for its future? After Voldemort's defeat and the subsequent reforms under Kingsley Shacklebolt's leadership, the use of Dementors in Azkaban was discontinued. This decision marked a significant shift in how the wizarding world viewed justice and punishment. Without the Dementors, however, the island's role became less clear. Could Azkaban, stripped of its spectral jailers, become dormant, or would its dark legacy persist regardless of who occupied it? Azkaban's history also invites reflection on the broader themes of justice and power within the wizarding world. By choosing a place steeped in such malevolence to serve as a prison, the Ministry of Magic effectively endorsed a system that prioritized fear over rehabilitation. This decision, while practical in the short term, perpetuated cycles of suffering and despair, ensuring that Azkaban would remain a symbol of cruelty rather than justice. It forces us to ask, what does the existence of a place like Azkaban say about the values of the wizarding society that created it? Were they, in some ways, complicit in the darkness they sought to contain? Perhaps the most haunting aspect of Azkaban's story is its inevitability. From its earliest days as Acristis' lair to its transformation into a prison, the island seems destined to serve as a place of confinement, suffering, and fear. Yet there is also a glimmer of hope in its modern legacy. The removal of Dementors and the push for more humane treatment of prisoners suggests that the wizarding world is beginning to reckon with its darker history. Azkaban may never be free of its past, but it no longer defines the future of wizarding justice. As we step back and examine Azkaban's story, it becomes clear that the island is more than just a location. It is a reflection of the choices and values of those who control it. Whether as a dark wizard's fortress or a ministry prison, Azkaban has always mirrored the fears and failings of its time. Understanding its past allows us to question its purpose and imagine a better way forward. In this way, Azkaban's grim history becomes not just a tale of despair, but a call to create a more just and compassionate world.